In this lesson, we're going to examine how we can find the midpoint of a line, in particular a line that's on the Cartesian plane. So the idea of a midpoint really is the average of your two endpoints. If you have a line that joins 2 points, the middle of it is halfway in between. And halfway in between means we can add up what we have on either end and then divide by 2. The way that's going to look is, we'll take the midpoint, add your x's, then divide by 2, add your y's, divide by 2, and notice we have a bracket with a comma between them because this is a point. So we'll try a couple just to get the hang of this. And I want to find the midpoint of the line segment that joins these things together. So I want to find the midpoint of A, B. Big bracket because of the point, and add up my x's, so x and x, divided by 2. Take my y's, 0 plus 0, divided by 2. We're going to do each part separately. So we've got 4 over 2 and 0 over 2, or in other words, 2, 0. We can try the next one, the midpoint of FG. So this time it's 0 plus 0 for the x's, and 2 plus negative 7 for the y's. And be careful with your signs. So 0 over 2, and 2 plus negative 7 is negative 5 over 2. And here we get 0 and negative 2.5. And it's okay to get decimals. Nothing wrong with decimals. They're going to be nice decimals. They end in 0.5 every time. And try the third one. I'm just going to move it so it's all the way down here. And I want the midpoint of MN. What are we going to get? Negative 3 plus 8 and 7 plus negative 1. Again, be careful with our signs. So on the top, negative 3 plus 8 is 5 over 2. 7 plus negative 1 is 6 over 2, which gives us 2.5 and 3. The only trick here is be careful to put the x's together with x's, y's with y's, and then your signs. Okay. Not only do we want to find midpoints, we want to be able to work with midpoints. We want to be able to think and problem solve with these. So we're going to look at an example here. One of the endpoints of a line segment is 1, 1. The midpoint of that line segment is negative 3 and 2. Find the other endpoint. Now, it's going to be a little bit confusing. So how will we draw it out? If I put my endpoint 1, 1, there's x, so 1, 1, and I've got the midpoint at negative 3, 2, so left 3 up 2. Common sense tells me that the other midpoint has to be somewhere over here, right? If this is a line that joins them, well, the middle has got to be in the middle. So if we call this Z, how can I find Z? There's two ways we can go about this. We can do an algebraic method. How do I use algebra? Well, I know the midpoint formula is I add my x's and divide by 2, add my y's and divide by 2. What do I know? I know the midpoint is negative 3, 2. I know one of the points is 1, but I don't know the other point. So let's just call it x. One of the y's is 1, but I don't know the other one, so let's call it y. And now I have two equations. It doesn't look like two equations, but we can treat it as two equations. So equation number 1 is all about the x's. Negative 3 equals 1 plus x over 2. Equation number 2 is about the y's. 2 equals 1 plus y over 2. We can solve these by using some cross multiplying. 1 times 1 plus x is just 1 plus x. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. So in other words, x is negative 6 minus 1, or negative 7. We can do the exact same thing to figure out y. Cross multiply, we've got 1 plus y equals 4, or y equals 4 minus 1, y is 3. So I can figure out that that other endpoint is at the coordinates negative 7 and 3. Now some people really like this algebraic method using formulas. Other people like to use the idea of thinking, using pictures to help solve problems. So let's look at this picture, if we will, for a second. If we're having a line that connects x to z, and it has to go through y, then the way I get from x to y has to be the exact same as I get from y to z, because y is in the middle. So let's think about this. To get from x to y, we have to go up 1 and then left 4 from 1 to negative 3. Well, that means to get from y to z, I have to go up 1. So if I add 1 to my y value of 2, I get 3. And if I go left 4, so go back 4 from negative 3, I'm at negative 7. Well, that's the exact same answer we got for z by doing algebra. This way we just had to do a little bit of thinking and counting. Okay? It's basically the idea of slope, if you will. So there's a good application of midpoint. Okay, our big idea for today, taking midpoints and actually using it to solve something. So here I want to solve for a median. A median is a special line. In geometry, this is the line that joins the vertex of a triangle to the midpoint of the opposite side. So if I were to label this triangle, let's call this triangle A, B, C. The median from A would be the line that starts at A and goes to the opposite midpoint. So that's this line right here. And it's going to go to the midpoint of BC. And we'd label this as the median from A. Okay. The median from B, we can look at that one. That's this green one here. Median from B would start at B and it'd end up at, on the other side, the midpoint of the opposite side, AC. And because the triangle, you could have 3 sides, so 3 medians, you could have the median from C. Where those medians meet is a single point. They all meet in the same point. We call that point the centroid. And we'll talk more about centroid tomorrow. Today I'm only going to worry about medians. Our objective today is to figure out the equations of these lines. Equations of lines, as we know, should always be in the form y equals mx plus b. So we have to figure out the m and the b, the slope and the y-intercept. To do that, we're going to have to do 3 things. Okay, we're going to have to know where the line starts and where it ends. Now I know where it starts because I'm told the median from A or B or C. That's my starting point. I can figure out where it ends by finding the opposite midpoint. So that's step number 1, find the opposite midpoint. Step number 2 is figure out the slope of that line. Use your starting point and your ending point to find your slope. And step number 3, you have to solve for B, find the y-intercept. And we can do that if we know a point on the line. We actually know 2 points on every line. We know the vertex we started at or the midpoint of the opposite side. Now that's going to seem a little confusing, all that stuff right there. So we're going to try some examples. I'll do the first one, and hopefully you pause it and try the second one yourself. So here's our example. Given a triangle with vertices A, B, and C, let's do some things. First thing, we're going to sketch the triangle. And sketches are helpful, so if you know you're on the right track. So a sketch, 2, 5. That's A. A is 2, 5. B is at 6 and negative 1, so I'll put it down here. And C is at negative 4 and negative 5. Let's put it over here. And we're going to make a triangle out of this. Okay. That's part A done. Part B. I want to draw the median from A. So I'm told where to start from A. But if I want to draw it, I got to figure out where to end. I don't know what that is. So what am I going to have to do in order to figure this out? Well, step number 1, I got to find the midpoint of the opposite side. So if it starts at A, the opposite side would be B, C. Because that's where my line has to end. I got to figure out where to draw it. So how do I find a midpoint? Well, that's what we learned today. BC, 6 plus negative 4. Add our x's, divide by 2. Y's, negative 1 plus negative 5 divided by 2. Okay, what are we going to get? We'll get 2 over 2 and negative 6 over 2, which is 1 and negative 3. Now I know where to draw the end point of my line. 1 and negative right there. Midpoint of BC. Here's my median. Okay. If I want to find the median, I need its equation. I know where I can see where it is now, but I want to find its equation. So step number 2, Let's find the slope. The slope from the start, which is A, to the end, the midpoint, B, C. So we need to use our next equation, y2 minus y1. And I'm going to write down the points here. What's A? A is 2, 5. Okay, I'm just going to write them down so we can see them here. Okay, so my equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm using these 2 points, right? I'm going to do 5 minus negative 3 over 2 minus 1. That gives me 8 over 1, or in other words, 8. So what do I know? I know the slope. I can figure out y equals 8x plus b. I need to find b. How do I find b? I find it by solving using a point on my graph, a point on my line. And which points are on the line? Well, look at the picture. The only ones that are on the line, the red line, are A and the midpoint. I know those. So I can use either A, which we said was 2, 5, or the midpoint of BC, which was, move up here for a second, 1, negative 3. Your choice which one you want to use, because they're both made up of x's and y's. I'm going to use A, 2, 5, because they're positive. I like that. So 5 for y, 2 for x, and b. So we're going to expand, we're going to rearrange, we're going to solve. So what do I figure it out now? The equation is 8x minus 11. What is this? This is the median from A. Okay, a median is a line has an equation. We figured out the slope and the intercept of that equation. All right, part C. You're going to try this now. So pause it. See what you can do with this one. I want to find the median from C. Okay, median from C. Give it a try. Okay, first thing I need for a median from C, I know where it starts, but I don't know where it ends. So I'm going to write up here, I'm going to find the midpoint of the opposite side. That would be AB. Let's find that. What do we get for AB? We're going to do 2 plus 6 over 2 and 5 plus negative 1 over 2. That's going to give us 8 over 2 and 4 over 2, or in other words, 4, 2. So it starts there, it ends over here. Here is the median from B, or sorry, from C. And what do I need to do to find that equation? I need to find its slope and its y-intercept. So I'm going to go down the bottom now, okay? I'll write down their information so we have it. So part C, the midpoint of AB was, and point C was, information, what do we got? We got 4, 2, and negative 4, negative 5. 4, 2, and negative 4, negative 5. I want to find the equation of the line that joins these 2 points. Let's find our slope. Our slope was negative 5 minus 2, negative 4 minus 4. I get negative 7 over negative 8. It's decimals, but it's a nice decimal. It comes up to 0.875. And I'm totally fine with decimals if they're nice decimals, like this one is. If it's a never-ending decimal, 0.33333 on and on forever and ever and ever, gotta use fractions. But if it's decimals, use decimals. Okay, so what do we know? We know our slope, 875 x plus b. In order to get b, we need to know a point, an x and a y. Hey, I got 2 of them. I got this one. I got this one. I'm going to use 4, 2 this time because they're nice whole numbers and they're positives. So 2 for y, 875, 4 for x, solve for b. Okay, we're going to have to multiply this out. We'll get 3.5 plus b. So 2 minus 3.5 is b, negative 1.5 is b, and now I have my equation. y equals 0.875x minus 1.5. And what is that? That is the median from C. And hopefully you tried it yourself and got the same answers. A median process always stays the same. Find your midpoint so you can draw your line, write down your 2 points, your start and your end, and then find its equation. Okay, some questions you should probably try. There's a couple of them there. Some of them are just about midpoint. If you get the hang of midpoint, you don't have to do all of them. Definitely try number 7 because that one is about medians. It's good practice.